There are pockets of your day-to-day that have become incredibly efficient with technology, and there are others that have resisted that. And that's always been an obsession of mine.
Do you think we are now at a stage where the ideologies of crypto are not really that important anymore?
The KPI here is making crypto invisible and delivering extreme value to the end user. They don't see the technology, they feel the impact of the technology.
He spotted DeFi before it was mainstream, investing early in the protocols that rewrote finance. Now Santiago Santos is building Inversion to connect real-world businesses to the blockchain. Today we dive into the investor who's turning conviction into construction.
Where do you see the opportunities right now?
The ongoing maintenance of these open source crowdfunded networks.
What is it that's actually held back the industry in this way?
We're not going to onboard 1 billion users into this industry just with speculation. Oh, the institutions are here, they're co-opting it. I'm like, no, they're not. The reason why I wanted to start Inversion is because I think we are selling ourselves short as an industry.
Hey guys, welcome to Risk Takers. Today we've got Santiago Santos on from Inversion Capital. Santiago has a breadth of investment knowledge. He's been in the game since 2012, and I can't wait for you guys to see this episode. Enjoy the show. Santi, thank you so much for being here. It's massive. It honestly means so much to me, so thank you very much.
Of course.
Could you just start by giving people a little bit, I know a lot of people know you, but just a little bit about who you are and what your journey is that's led you into crypto, really?
Yeah, I guess a bit of a dinosaur. I've been investing in crypto since 2012. Wow. It was really just Bitcoin at the time. It captivated me because I grew up in Mexico, and at the time I was at JP Morgan doing like investment banking, big deals, and I think as an investor, and I always loved investing, and really we're talking about the psychology of things. Investing is a psychological sport. It has always been frustrating in your day-to-day when you encounter inefficiencies. At the time, growing up in Mexico, I'm like, it costs so much to move money. And it was like, gosh, there ought to be a better way. Especially because technology has advanced so much and it has allowed us to make our lives so much better. Like your Amazon is the Amazon-like experience for XYZ in your life. There are pockets of your day-to-day that have become incredibly efficient with technology, and there are others that have resisted that. And that's always been an obsession of mine. Like it has haunted me. And so when I discovered Bitcoin, it was like, gosh, I can move money. And yeah, it's volatile, but I can move it fast. And then I compared that to Western Union and traditionally how remittance operators do that. And Bitcoin at the time was like $40, $50. So 21 million Bitcoin, $50. It's like, fairly small of a net market cap. But I thought I'm late to the game. Bitcoin had gone up from $1 to 50. Yeah. I'm like, God, yeah. I missed out on a 50x. That's venture. Like, gosh, I'm so late to the industry. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin, send it to people in Mexico. And if they get it, they're able to retrieve it. Something's here, because then Western Union at the time was worth like 10 times more than Bitcoin, the aggregate market cap of Bitcoin. And I said, oh gosh, well, this could be a 10x from here if it works. So anyways, that is, I guess, an illustration of my journey in crypto has had singular moments like that, where the aperture and how this technology can be applied as advanced in my learning. I couldn't tell you that back then I saw how the industry is today and how it would be applied, but it did start with this understanding of where is friction in your life and how can we make that better with some sort of technology. I'm not a technologist at heart and I'm an optimist at heart, but I come up from a very traditional financial background. I was working after JP Morgan doing investment banking. I worked at a fund called SageView, super traditional, like super sharp partners at KKR, this large private equity fund started, and we were investing in enterprise software and deeply kind of unsexy stuff. Okay. That gave me a really good understanding of how businesses work and how deeply inefficient they are. Mm-hmm. So anyways, kept investing in crypto, obviously early in Ethereum, a lot of the projects. I've always loved early stage investing. If you're a founder, you come to me and say, I have this crazy idea of a prediction market. When Chain from Polymarket came to me, I said, I love that. And you could see it in his eyes. There's something so captivating when a founder comes to you and looks you in the eyes and says, I'm going to change this industry. And imagine that you know perhaps a bit more about how poorly run that industry is. And saying, you know what? You probably don't understand how hard this journey is going to be, but it requires that sense of delusionment and naivete to go at it. And you look at the history of innovation, it's like that. And so I love that this industry has those kinds of big dreamers and bold ambitions, and we've come a long way. So that's why I'm here. I've was a partner at this fund called 𝗥𝗶𝘀𝗸𝗧𝗏 Capital. We were early in decentralized finance, which is now a manifestation of stablecoins. We were early investors in Polymarket. Now I'm translating everything that I've learned in my career and in this industry, and started Inversion last year. Inversion is very simply a mechanism to deploy this technology at scale, because the thesis is very simple. Every business is going to use this technology to run more efficiently, in the same way that businesses understood that with the internet. So I'll pause. The last thing I'll say is, investing in technology is hard because you have this incredible optimism, because you know that technology makes our lives better. AI, biotech, crypto. Some people might argue that's the last one. But it's hard to imagine the future. Very few people can imagine the future. When smartphones came around, no one really believed or understood what you would do with this device in that form factor. You didn't have really good internet. You didn't have any apps. It was bad. But it touched a nerve that I think crypto also, if you're deep in the industry, you kind of feel it is touching a nerve of coordination as a species. It's social. There's money. There's the core principles that you just relate to. That's like something big will come out of this. But we've come such a long way as an industry that I just fundamentally I'm left wondering that we are selling ourselves short as an industry. It's all speculation. It's all a casino. And gosh, it would suck if we wait another 5-10 years and all we can offer people is 50x perpetual long products on a shitcoin. Stablecoins, finance, again, going back to the original idea why Bitcoin is so interesting to me, is like the world does not run well. Like everything in our life has become easier, but the financial system is so antiquated and predates the internet. And that's my mission in life. Like we will make the financial system better. And stablecoins are a core primitive, and Inversion is that strategy of acquiring businesses and transforming them with that technology.
Amazing. So much to go into there. Let's go a bit deeper into Inversion, first of all. So obviously Inversion is something that you're so interested in now because you've got all this experience, whether it's investing in for JP Morgan, went through investment banks, or through 𝗥𝗏𝘀𝗀𝗧𝗏, or even your own journey as well. But Inversion is specifically a chain. Well, you guys are going out there and trying to acquire businesses and then improve them by putting them on chain. That's correct, right? Mm-hmm. So could you go into a bit more information, a bit more detail as to how you're going to do that? What's the businesses that you're going to be acquiring? What businesses are you looking for? And what's the kind of blueprint for that, if you can reveal anything?
Every business interacts with financial system, whether you're a restaurant, a supply chain, a industrial company. Like, you're moving money. You're receiving money, you're moving money. There's a tax involved with that. Whether you see it or not, it's different, but there's always a tax. And that shows up in the financial statements of any company. Mm-hmm. Working capital, cash conversion, all of that. So, I just love digging through financial statements and understanding what that friction is. It's like, where's the friction? I want to remove it. So Inversion, we see the world as, to your point, as a sandwich. We have the user aggregation layer. We want to go buy businesses where we can retrofit them with this technology. Stablecoins, DeFi, like DePIN infrastructure, where it's on the back end. Like, it's invisible to the front end user never likely will see it, but the business becomes more efficient. We go into that. And then you settle all that activity to our chain. And then you have a lot of middleware partners like stablecoin issuers and DeFi protocols that plug into our chain. The KPI here is making crypto invisible and delivering extreme value to the end user. So what does that mean in practice? Because again, if you zoom out in 20 years, every business is going to adopt this technology. Mm-hmm. How? But where do we go today? Like, what kind of business do we want to buy? And there's two elements of our investment framework. One is, can we cut costs of a business? So if you're a business and you're paying 4 or 6% for payment processing, well, that's an immediate area and we're paying attention. If you have a lot of cross-border trade and you're moving money and it costs you a lot to do that, and you have a lot of working capital tied up in these Nova Nostra accounts, that's an industry we like. So then we then evaluate that through the lens of how quickly can we cut costs and can we build margin of safety? Because rule number one is, if you control your destiny when you control costs. Mm-hmm. So if we lower costs, then we're in a more interesting position, which is it's not just about cutting costs. It's like, what else can we do to that business to really upsell this technology, meaning financial services? I draw a lot of inspiration from the largest companies in the world eventually become banks. Airlines, they're banks. They don't make money on moving you around from point A to point B. They make money on the credit cards. Without that, they're not profitable unless they're sponsored by states. So Starbucks, we were just there. It's a bank. Gift cards, huge business for them. Every large business eventually becomes a large financial institution because it has a really good relationship with the end customer. And so again, the prompt, if you were to prompt it in ChatGPT, anyone that wants to compete against Inversion, go after, is which businesses can we acquire that have trust and distribution so that we can, on the back end, surgically swap infrastructure and use stablecoins on the back end, and then improve that customer-facing relation to develop broader connectivity. So I can give you a very concrete example. There's a business that we're looking at and by the way, it's mostly outside the US, because when you go talk to people, and maybe here we're in London, financial infrastructure is there, right? People are like, oh, Revolut works great. PayPal works great. Venmo works great. But that's not true in places where I grew up, in other parts of the world. So Latin America is a big focus. And again, you look at a business that has very limited access to credit. So they do payroll loans. You have a lot of these employees that are employed by mostly government agencies that don't ever get fired. And they get paid once a month. Why do they get paid once a month? Because the financial system is really antiquated. It costs you a lot to send that money to people. So, but they need to spend on the day-to-day. So you do payroll loans. You know they're going to get paid in 30 days, so you can extend credit to them. That business, for instance, has very limited access to capital in Mexico. It's borrowing at 23%. And it has very limited capacity. And it's like it has access to 500,000 government workers, and they're extending credit to maybe less than 4% of them. We come in there and say, I think we can lower that. We can borrow cost on chain in this decentralized finance world, which lowers your cost of capital because, borderless, and it just is a fluid internal capital market that allows companies to tap into these facilities on chain, and we'll supply that. That business can now extend more loans. And by the way, so you immediately kind of improve that business. And then you say, what else can we do? If you have that good relationship with the customer, where you're providing them a loan on their payroll, well, they likely don't have a bank account. They likely don't have access to credit. Well, we develop a good relationship with them. We serve them stablecoins. Most people in the world want to save in dollars, earn yield. So it's a very simple, narrow kind of focus that we have to how we want to serve our customers, which is really predicated on most people ex-US want to save in dollars and earn some yield. And if you do that well, you build a massive business.
Yeah. So if you were to explain it in just one sentence, how would you explain Inversion in one sentence?
The meme is Berkshire Hathaway.
Okay, yeah.
But again, it's too complicated for the layman, I guess. In a very simplistic way is we acquire businesses and we make them more efficient with this technology. Mm-hmm. We acquire full control, which is called private equity.
And with the meme being Berkshire Hathaway, if anyone that doesn't know, that's obviously Warren Buffett's investment firm that's been very, very successful. Berkshire have a long-standing history of having a lot of their portfolio condensed into their biggest players, their main conviction bets. So
Coca-Cola, American Express, Geico,
I think their top 10 holdings are 90% of their book. So which businesses have you got in your zeitgeist right now that you think, okay, I can go there and I can actively take this business, put it on chain, and improve the efficiency tomorrow?
The concentration piece, I'm not so much focused on.
Okay.
Because I think every business will adopt this technology. So I care less about concentration. What I like about the Berkshire Hathaway model is that they're very patient long-term pools of capital. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned private equity. For people that are familiar, the name of the company is Inversion because it's Charlie Munger, which is Warren Buffett's partner, says invert, always invert. What that means is before doing stuff, you first want to understand problems and why stuff hasn't worked. And we can go into why hasn't crypto gotten 10 times more users? Why is private equity as an asset class not returning as much? And I think when I look at private equity, you have basically a finite period of time, 10 years, to buy a business and make it more efficient. In that journey, you unfortunately need to compromise how you really build long-term value. Like people might say 10 years is a lot, and certainly in crypto is. But I think why Berkshire Hathaway has been a very good vehicle is because they don't have that pressure. They have the luxury to be patient and to buy when people don't have capital and they're well capitalized. And so that's the model and blueprint that I want to build, which is we want to buy businesses and own them forever. Because if we buy really good businesses that are powered by our technology, we never need to sell them. It's a perpetual flywheel. Like blockchains are economic systems, right? Mm-hmm. We can buy businesses with users, an activity that settles on to our chain. And we build an app store like that, people can interact with certain products, whether it's buy now, pay later, or credit, or NFTs if you want to collect, or games or whatever, that may be powered by this technology, well-curated set of experiences that the end user is going to like. And we drive value by making that business more efficient and increase revenues, but also the chain starts generating some meaningful cash flow. And so you reinvest that money into never selling that business that has activity to the chain because you're making money on the chain too. Solana, for instance, chain fees were like over $1 billion last year. Mm-hmm. Most of that was tied to meme coins. And so that, again, is very cyclical. I think we can build my goal is to build the largest chain by running this playbook, which is I will go and continuously buy more and more businesses, larger businesses, and bring them on chain with it. And some businesses might not be consumer facing. Some businesses, we're going to go in industries where we can do this with the least amount of risk. And, some businesses might have more on-chain activity footprint than others, and that's okay. But we're here to play the long game. Again, it's like I consider myself extremely lucky. I think this technology is generational. It's going to transform, and it's going to be more impactful than AI because it allows us to kind of graduate from existing systems and coordinate better as species, like full stop. Everything else is a derivative of that. And so I think I wanted to structure Inversion in a way that allows me to play that really long-term game, which is capture value in both ends of the spectrum and really then allow and bring in the best ecosystem players, the best technology as it evolves. Again, going back to the smartphone example, Apple. Why is Apple so valuable? Why is WeChat so valuable? Again, drawing inspiration from one of the largest companies in the world. Apple is valuable because they produced a hardware device that is beautiful, intuitive. It demystified how hard it was to operate technology, and it made it so relatable to people that it was like intuitive that you didn't even need to read a manual. We need to do that in crypto. It's not relatable yet. It's hard, creating a wallet and secure all this jazz. And then they created an experience that it's a very curated on the App Store for users. And that's how I think we capture value. The best companies are banks, but they also own the customer relationship, the user aggregation layer, and we want to own that. And so I think the other company is WeChat. Like WeChat is this everything app, It started with social and then it expanded into everything. Like you don't ever give a reason to that user, once you have their attention, to ever leave your app. And I think if we do that well, we can create that type of structure with Inversion, which is we buy more and more businesses and you capture that attention.
So your goal is to get people on the chain and then essentially never leave.
Never leave. Well, not on the chain. I think we will have been successful if we asked my user of the companies that we're acquiring and they never know that there's a thing called the Inversion chain. They're just saying, gosh, I have all the set of apps in my phone right now. Probably doesn't change. They don't see the technology, they feel the impact of the technology. Like Polymarket's a great example. A company that I invested in early on. Do you think that the vast majority of the users there understand which chain that market is being settled on? Absolutely not. It's on Polygon, by the way, which is a narrative violation, which most people, don't think that Polygon is a very good chain. But it works. And it works efficiently enough to power the most successful consumer breakthrough app of this cycle. So again, this is kind of the interesting evolution of this technology, which is there's been, we're nowhere near being mainstream adoption yet because we still think of the world in these terms of infrastructure is invisible. It needs to work sufficiently enough to power all these different use cases. And we're starting to see some use cases. But yeah, my goal, we need to make crypto relatable but invisible.
Yeah, I think that's quite powerful. Crypto is the infrastructure behind it. As the end user actually using it, there's so much friction. And I know we were speaking about before, and we came on stream actually, that friction is one of the most, it's sometimes really hard to detect where the friction is, what the friction is because of, but it's one of those things that really can cause plans to be completely scuppered in a lot of ways. I think Shane, so Polymarket is a good example. How many investors actually were against the fact that it was on Polygon? Was that something that turned investors off in the first place?
I probably think so, yeah. For sure. You know, why Polygon? You know, it doesn't really work. I'm like, again, we're all in this world within crypto. We're debating which chain is the best. And they all somehow are able to manufacture in a vacuum that everyone has the highest TPS and all these metrics that, you know, matter. Security matters, decentralization matters. It's time to stress test the technology. Like we've deployed, I guess, if I were to characterize like the evolution of this industry, the last 12 years since I've been in this industry, it had been investing in infrastructure. Billions and billions of dollars have been invested. Lord knows it. I'm probably the third most active angel. I've invested in, on paper, recorded 150 projects. It's way more than that, I can tell you. And in 𝗡𝗄𝗧, and I think we've invested so much in the technology, in the infrastructure. The infrastructure is ready now. It is scalable. We do not have enough active users in this technology. And there's a couple of structural problems with that. Every user comes in through an exchange. And so it's almost like you want to bring the entire world to Las Vegas. Well, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, they're going to go to the casino. Do you see people in the casino selling you life insurance or annuities or, no. People walk into a casino and they see 10 times leverage on your meme coin of flavor. And it's very difficult to really kind of, I think it's self-correcting in many ways. The reason why I wanted to start Inversion is because I think we are selling ourselves short as an industry. It is easy to get caught up in, exchanges are wildly profitable. But again, the retention of that user that walks into the casino, the longer you exist in the casino, the higher the likelihood is you're going to be liquidated. You said something earlier, which is, you might want to say,
Yeah, so there's a very interesting stat that takes the best investment strategy. This is from Morgan Hounslow's The Psychology of Money book. There was a study that was done, the best investment strategy in the SPX is to take 2-to-1 leverage on your SPX holdings. If you take that over the course of the entire history of the SPX and you're investing for about 60 years.
This is the S&P 500, the kind of blue chip US market.
You're going to get liquidated. At some point in that journey, you're going to get liquidated. Now, this thesis does play out that your actual returns from day zero to retirement day should, on average, beat, even though you got liquidated, your returns actually catch up to that liquidation level. But still, this is the safest investment, essentially, of all time when you extrapolate it out. And you're going to get liquidated. So for people to go, I got liquidated on a 3 or 4 safe position yesterday. This is not safe in any way, shape or form. Any amount of leverage is, and I think people also forget this. When you go on chain and you deposit ETH and you borrow against it, this is still leverage.
Totally. Somehow we've conditioned that 2x leverage is not a lot because you're anchored to that 10x is a default in exchanges. And you're like, you work backwards from it's so volatile as an asset class. Like you have drawdowns of 60, 70%, and oracles fail and market structure fails and you can't get transactions through. But going back to the more important stuff, like days like this weekend, stress test the technology. And again, this is predicated on I'm very excited because we are continuously stress testing this infrastructure that's been deployed over the last 12 years, which is you have networks that absorb all this spike in transaction and activity. And I think you've seen Ethereum L1, obviously the fees spiked a lot. So it's hard to say that we're going to get billions of users on chain using this technology if transaction fees go to 1,000 per transaction. That is untenable. We're never going to. So, there's an issue there. But you have networks like Solana or Avalanche or others, high throughput blockchains that actually credibly support, and the fees are low and transactions are happening. And so that's when I say I don't have an opinion on the financialization of this industry. It's just, no, that's telling you we can actually go and bring all this business functionality on chain and support these use cases at massive scale. And that's, I look at that. I look at, you know, when Trump launches a meme coin on a weekend, and you're sitting there and saying, gosh, we onboarded, you know, close to 1 million users and transaction activity spiked like 2-3 order magnitude event, and you absorb that flawlessly. I'm like, okay, you see a world where you can have 1 billion users interacting with this technology. And the same was true with the internet, right? Like smartphone in the early days, like the first, I think it was only until the 3rd generation iPhone where you started to have like some really good usage. But the first couple of iterations were, it was extremely expensive to roam.
Yeah.
Because you had to deploy cellular fiber and cellular towers and all that infrastructure. It cost billions and billions of dollars. It's a normal evolution of technology, right? Again, we are now in that phase of over investment in infrastructure, under investment in deployment of the technology. And I think it requires a classical inverting sense of, we're not going to onboard 1 billion users into this industry just with speculation. As much as it is great, speculation, a prerequisite to capture attention, excite people. Anyone that has gone 100x levered on anything sure knows that it's exciting, but I think if we're going to bring 1 billion users on chain, it needs to be through this strategy that we're doing at Inversion, which is, imagine acquiring, you know, a massive business out there that has 50 billion users, and you buy that business and you layer on stablecoins because that user base, you have the attention. Imagine if you buy a telco business in a place like Brazil. Most of those users can't live without their smartphone, and they'll pay the bill, but they don't have access to credit. They don't have a bank account, but they're receiving remittances. So what happens when you buy that telco operator that has 50 million users or 20 million users, and then you replace some infrastructure and you have a digital wallet, and all of a sudden you tell those users with a push of a button, here's a QR code, people can send you money, and you have a digital wallet where you can save dollars and earn yield.
This theory on, or this idea on remittances and this being a breakthrough portion of crypto has been in the narrative for a very, very long time now. We've been speaking about using crypto to circumvent Western Union. I mean, honestly, since as long as I can remember. And it seems like there's, as we said before, that there's been a lot of friction in actually allowing this to be something that just gets distributed completely across all of these areas where banks and in areas where people are struggling to pay or having to pay these remittances. What is it that's actually held back the industry in this way? Like, if you go back 5 years ago, where did you see the industry? If you go back 5 years ago, where did you see the industry ending up being, and how different is that to what has actually happened in the last 5 years?
You got to invert.
Yeah.
What have we gone wrong as an industry? Trying to build distribution. It is expensive. It is time consuming. You know, like, you want to acquire the incremental user to use this transformational technology is hard. Seed phrase, wallet. Oh, God knows it. It's still hard. But we've come a long way.
It's hard for us.
Why is ChatGPT not hard? Why did ChatGPT get that scale? Because it's so native. It looks and feels like Google search. You have to, require people to download it, but it's so intuitive. Money is also hard for people to understand. People don't like to think about money. You don't typically switch your bank account on the daily, right? So you invert and you say, I never want to build distribution, especially for a transformational technology like crypto. You want to acquire distribution. You want to tap into an existing relationship with a user and retrofit it that is invisible. It's invisible, right? In the same way that you bought the 3rd generation smartphone, and all of a sudden you said, oh, wow, my cell phone carrier figured out this whole backend infrastructure so that I could actually stream Netflix on my phone. But as an industry, we're saying, no, we want to make sure that people really understand the routing and the packing. You have to configure your settings in RPC mode in your phone to like make sure that as you change countries, like you're switching cellular towers. I'm like, brother in Christ, like, no, that's not how it's gonna work. The other thing is, there's 2 other components of why it hasn't happened. One, regulatory. I started Inversion in November of last year when Trump got elected. Very different regime, very different stance towards regulation.
Was that as a result of Trump being elected that you started Inversion?
Yeah. I started thinking about Inversion when I left 𝗡𝗄𝗡 over 4 years ago. I said there will come a time where I can implement this technology in a real business. But you can't do that in a very hostile regulatory environment. You can't convince a board. It just becomes difficult, right? You compromise, maybe, it's a difficult thing to do. And so the regulatory piece also coincided with the infrastructure being ready. Again, gosh, you joined, I think, the industry a couple, 4 years ago or a bit more than that. Like, you remember the times where NFT mints were happening? Like, it was crazy to interact with the chain. Now imagine bringing Vodafone or large companies to use this stuff. Imagine if all their users want to use and turn on the lights and to use blockchain on the back end. Like, you just can't do it, right? So I think it is a culmination of things that I think the timing is very correct. Regulatory is aligning with the infrastructure being ready. And on a personal level, just really, I don't think there's a lot of people that understand, going back to this idea of inverting and saying, what has the industry not gotten wrong? Like, what has the industry gotten wrong? Because you might be sitting there and saying, we're describing stablecoins. We're saying they're amazing products. Like, programmable money is the seventh wonder of the world. The Collison brothers, call it like room temperature semiconductors. The problem the crypto industry has is we constantly overpromise and underdeliver. And we want to come and portray this technology as incredibly transformational. But the reality is, to your point around Western Union, Western Union is never going to go out of business anytime soon. The market is kind of thinking that it will go out of business because stablecoins are going to come in and eat their lunch. And it's trading at 4 times P ratio, which is, to give you a sense, distressed steel mill operators 20 years ago, when they were going out of business in the US with NAFTA and deregulating global market globalization, were trading at 8 times P ratio. Wow. Western Union, left for dead. PayPal, left for dead. The reality is, if you truly understand this friction that happens behind the scenes, you understand how complicated it is to move money, even in a world where you have stablecoins. Like, yes, the highway is faster, but the checkpoints, on and off ramps, are complicated. You have to source the liquidity. You have to, have a customer relationship. You have to acquire the customers. So a business like Western Union doesn't go out of business. Not in 5 years. You can use stablecoins to make a business like Western Union more efficient. Yes.
Do you think that's what will happen?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
who's going to do the
I mean, as an investor, I'm not looking to buy companies at 100 times multiple. This is not a venture strategy. I have no interest in buying a business for 20, 30 times. I'm interested in buying a business for 4 times, 5 times EBITDA.
So you're looking for, are you looking for distressed businesses, or businesses that are fully functioning that actually just would get a little bit of improvement?
I've looked at some distressed stuff. Mostly businesses that have not in distress, but have stopped growing and are overlooked. Morgan Housel has a great book, which is always the same, I think. I think it's his 3rd book or something. And it's this idea that you overlay this incredible optimism with technology, of that the world is going to be transformed, creative destruction, with certain ideas that some things just never change. And it serves you well to understand the difference. What never changes? Consumer behavior never changes. People don't have financial literacy. People and businesses have natural inertia to try something new. People are lazy. They don't want to switch providers. So working backwards from that, right? And so I think a business like Western Union has a lot of brand visibility, has a lot of distribution, has a lot of agent networks in local countries to source liquidity. Yeah. Now, are you more excited to invest in the next stablecoin issuer at a $500 million valuation with 0 revenue? Or are you interested in buying Western Union for 4 times PE ratio with good margins, not a lot of growth, but a lot of brand, and understanding, hey, gosh, what happens if we, instead of moving money through the SWIFT corridor, we can use stablecoins, and then instead of the end user having an off-ramp and paying commissions to these agents as source of liquidity, what if, hypothetically, Western Union would try to launch their own digital wallet, so that all the people that they're sending money to in emerging countries that want to save in dollars might want to just use their digital wallet? Who are they going to trust? Are they going to trust the startup in crypto? Or are they going to trust someone like Western Union that launches their digital wallet and allows you, because you've used it 10 times. The other thing that never changes, people will always pay for convenience. So it's again, it's really this like juxtaposition of we want to go really fast in certain things, but I also want to slow down and say, wait a minute, why? There is a healthy skepticism that you always need to have with this technology, which is if stablecoins are all amazing, they're tokenized, they're digital dollars. Everyone in the world should theoretically want that. It's just how you serve them. It's the go-to-market that people just haven't really been good at in crypto.
So this switch, right? You went from, obviously 𝗏𝗏𝗏 were focusing mainly on investing in new DeFi products that were...
We pretty much did the best DeFi investments categorically. We didn't miss, if we missed it, it was like rare, but we were on it. We were using it. We were actively using the technology.
Is that what gave you an edge, do you think?
100%. You have to stay close to the technology. Again, not a lot of investors use this technology. And I think this is where you need to develop an edge of saying,
do you think not a lot of crypto investors use the tech, or not a lot of investors generally use the tech?
Generally. But a day like, you know, if you have money on the line in a decentralized protocol, if you have enough money on the line as an institutional investor, you better understand how the Oracle and liquidation system is going to work. And then you say, oh gosh, I know the risks. I know if you do the work, right? And I think that's where I come at it, which is I do think that I have a deep appreciation of how this technology works and how it doesn't work and how it can furthermore be implemented and stitched together in the traditional business flows. Because that's the thing where a lot of people I think are very knowledgeable about like these technology works, and I wouldn't say by any stretch of the imagination I'm like a deep technologist. I understand it because I've used them and put money on the line, and I'm generally curious about them constantly. But you also then have to overlay, I think oftentimes you find people in crypto say, this technology is going to disrupt, blow up, we're going to stop using banks and we're going to use digital wallets. I'm like, no. People value convenience. You have to allow people to have cash. You have to allow people to have a network of distribution like Visa has, right? And so I think that's where the biggest challenge in this industry is as we start stitching together this technology in the on-chain, that we call on-chain digital world, with the analog physical world. That connectivity will have to be built, will have to be we're going to learn along the way. And that's where most of the value is going to be created, whoever figures that out. And I think that's what I'm excited about now, to take it and implement it. And it will require a lot of work.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I think the thing about crypto, right, is everything's like an experiment in crypto, right? Each time a new protocol is launched or a new DEX, whatever it is, people go and do all of the security they can. They build and build and build. But no matter what, as soon as they press launch, they don't really know what can go wrong. And everything's being built out in the open. And we are at a stage now where we've seen a lot of things built, a lot of things crush, a lot of things be built, a lot of things be destroyed. And as you said, the infrastructure now looks like it can handle the stress that needs to be placed on it if we're going to build true on-chain, essentially economies that aren't just trading based upon speculation. Because really, you look at Solana's success, all of the infrastructure around Solana's, all of the successful infrastructure that was built, basically was predicated on meme coin trading.
Yeah.
Now, there are some incredible projects being built on Solana, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, Helium, for example, things that are actually changing what the chain is known for, I guess. Mm-hmm. So where are the opportunities right now? If you were somebody who, not for you, like just as a general investor, where do you see the opportunities right now? Is it in infrastructure? Is it looking for these other niche projects? Is it just buying Bitcoin and sitting back?
Great question. How do you define opportunity? Like, what are you optimizing for? Like, greatest financial return and what time period and
that's a
motivation, fulfilling? I
think from an investment standpoint, to start with, and then for a builder potentially, what would be where do you think that would be the most fulfilling place to go and build things?
As a builder, I think more value would be created by stitching together what exists than building de novo. Like that interaction.
Do you think Polymarket is a good example of that?
Yes. Yeah. They were sufficiently smart to understand, hey, we're gonna focus on one thing really well, which is this markets for everything, and then the back end infrastructure we can sort of figure it out as much. Like it's not as essential. It's not the front row consideration. I think that's served him well. Like Shane is just a very focused founder. He's like, this is our prediction markets. They're going to transform media, and he's stuck to that.
Yeah.
I was going back to like some of the earlier messages I had with him, and unwavering kind of, but being flexible around the infrastructure. Opportunity-wise, look, I mean, I think obviously not to, I'm dedicating my time, energy in Inversion. I think it's the biggest opportunity we have to deploy it at scale. Spend a lot of time looking at DePIN, protocols like Helium. My general thesis for DePIN is it's very overlooked, I think. We have talked a lot about stablecoins and how it transforms payments and savings and allows people to basically have access to tokenized dollars, and it transforms like unit economics of businesses. DePIN is a very interesting category because there are businesses that are very capital intensive, like telecom, like mapping, certain use cases that crypto is really good at coordination. And so what you're seeing in DePIN is this kind of crowd-funded infrastructure that I think that has existed before crypto, but I would say that the overarching unifying element that crypto is very good at is putting a kind of like a coordination wrapper with value, with a token that incentivizes people not only to spin up these networks of infrastructure, whether it be storage or telecom, like cellular service or data or internet, or mapping infrastructure, but it's more so the ongoing maintenance of these open source crowd-funded networks is a key innovation that open source networks like Linux didn't have. And I think you need to have a token for that. Anyone that's like listening is like a blockchain, not crypto. No, you need to have a token to coordinate and incentivize people to ongoingly commit to these networks, resources, and time. And so I think my analogies are not perfect, but I think that what DePIN is doing for infrastructure is similar to how software as a service transformed the software industry in its own right. Meaning, before software as a service, this idea of paying for software services per seat in a flexible manner, it's an operating expense, not a capital expense. But because before that, in the dot-com bubble, you had companies, if you're a startup, you had to spend millions and millions of dollars to spin up your servers, to spin up your marketing stack. Like building your stack as a startup today costs $100. Before, millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. And it was because you had to deploy on-prem hardware. It was expensive. And software as a service made it that ability for businesses to adopt that technology on a per user basis in a flexible manner as they grew. Total transformation. Not to geek out on that, but like go study what software as a service did in 2002 with Salesforce and HubSpot and Workday. Now businesses can benefit from all of this software in a very, very cost-effective manner, switching from capital expenditure, which is sunk cost, massive, to flexible spend. So we're excited at Inversion looking at businesses like in the telecom space. Because you say the biggest cost, 50% of the cost of a mobile asset like carrier MVNOs is data costs. Well, gosh, could we somehow reduce that data cost? And why are data costs high? Because it required such high capital expenditure to deploy cellular towers and buy that spectrum from the government. You have like monopoly structures. So you're buying data really expensive because you're a taker of the price, not a setter.
Yeah.
Helium comes along. And in this journey, it's been so rewarding because it's almost like, can I express this thesis to a telco exec without ever mentioning crypto? And if they will validate it, then I've done something right and the opportunity is right. And again, I think this is something that is happening in real time in crypto, which is traditional business executives that really understand where the friction is, get more excited about using this technology, like BlackRock. Tokenization, Apollos of the world, JP Morgan even. There are telecom companies in the US that are using Helium on the back end because they're like, hey, as opposed to me paying $2 or $1.50 per gigabyte, I can use Helium and it's going to cost me 50 cents. And if I'm paying 50% of my entire cost structure is going to data, well, gosh, I mean, that's, again, we cannot lead with ideology. We don't win just with ideology, and that's been kind of the status of how the industry has wanted to kind of emerge, and it served us well for some things. We need to lead with business logic. Sit down with the telco exec and explain that flow. And if he says, okay, yeah, and then he's going to ask, is that regulatorily compliant? And you say, well, yes.
This idea that crypto is always led with ideology. Do you think we are now at a stage where the ideologies of crypto are largely, for the most part, not really that important anymore? And actually what is important now is this essentially was technology, and this is kind of like transformative technology for the most part. It needed that kind of ideology, almost like religion-like belief to get it off the ground. And now that it's off the ground, and I mean, it's almost inevitable at this point. Do you think that it still needs those ideologies to be at the core heart of it?
100%. I can tell you, even at a personal level in my company, we're a very mission-aligned company. You have to have that. Like, you have, because the task is never easy. It never is, but if you need to have core principles. And I think crypto has that. Some people talk about co-opting that initial principles of, oh, the institutions are here, they're co-opting it. I'm like, no, they're not. They're not. And so I think it's important. Now, I think you need to have like the 100 true fans kind of thing, which is like how this technology emerges. Like, you have to have crazy people that, you know, like you and I think anyone that is in crypto today investing is crazy. I think you have to have something off in your chip. Not knowing how hard it's going to be. But yeah, I think ideology is always important. I'm less worried about kind of how the manifestation of this technology happens. Because that's, I think, again, inverting. I think a lot of people in this industry lose sight of a marginal improvement is still a marginal improvement. And sometimes in my assessment of like companies that I've invested in, and you can invest in really smart, passionate, mission-aligned founders, but you need to be practical. And you need to kind of ship, iterate, move, evolve, adapt, right? It is impossible. I don't think anyone predicted what the smartphone was going to do, but you were there, you were iterating, you were adapting. You're not Nokia or BlackBerry. Apple just, you adapt. And I think it's important to balance this ideology, core principles and values with a very strong mission that I think categorically the best companies in the world have had one thing front and center, which is extreme value to the end user. And that's something the industry actually doesn't like. I don't think that a lot of players in this industry that have been vastly profitable, like exchanges, have that top of mind. Are you playing? There's a great book by James Cars, which is Finite and Infinite Games.
That's a good book.
Always play an infinite game and work backwards from that. Never do anything to compromise your ability to play this game. If you're Amazon, your focus was extreme value to the end user. We're going to start with a narrow wedge, which is books, because it is easy to kind of scan books and sell books. It's like ISBN code. And there's reasons why you first started with books and then did everything. And so I think it's that focus, but also just staying true to the North Star, which is this technology is going to transform the world as we know it. If you've used this technology, you know. If you send a stablecoin transfer, you do not want to send a wire transfer. But then it's also staying very focused around, as much as meme coins are good, as much as the casino is good, it is a small industry. There's what I'm doing may take 10, 20 years. It's something that I will do for the rest of my life because I love this industry. It's where I think I have the most amount of impact because I've invested in so many projects. And I'm like, gosh, what you need is for me to bring you 1 billion users to use this thing. So that's why it started. I talked to 5, 6, 10 founders and guys like, why is it that you're not growing much? It's a good they're like, there's not enough users on chain. I'm like, all right, I heard that enough. Let me go fix this for you.
Amazing. I think that is an amazing place to finish the conversation, Santi. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
And would you like to tell anyone where they can find you if they want some more information about you?
Well, thank you for hosting me. I'm so excited for this new type of content, which is less about price and more about just stories. So I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, people can go find me. I'm on Twitter, Santiago Roel, inversioncap.com. We are hiring. We're looking for A+ talent. So if you're interested, if this kind of sparked, if you're inverting, I'd like to talk to you.
What are you hiring? Builders or
Both private, like people with like investing skills, industry experts, but also on the chain side, we're looking for product and engineers, like forward deployed engineers, people that have interacted with companies and smart contractors. So yeah, across the board, we're hiring.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I just want to say another thank you so much. It was absolutely wonderful to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it.